Hello everyone and welcome to Victoria's Cantina. Today we're having a look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations S.H. Figuarts Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith. I purchased this from Ami over in Tokyo, which really cool store. I had the chance to visit it a couple years ago, and it's huge. It's like 3 stories, and they have all manner of toys that you can possibly imagine, including the S.H. Figuarts line, of course. And the packaging, as we can see, is more of the same. If you've seen one S.H. Figuarts Star Wars box, you've more or less seen them all. So, same thing here. The back shows you the figure in different poses, doing different things, doing some lightsaber arm wrestling with Anakin, poking your eyes out, and not being certain whether to be serious or to smile, be excited, be not so sure. Looks like maybe he saw somebody got hit by a car. And then all the usual stuff we get on these sorts of boxes from the S.H. Figuarts Star Wars line. It does say ages 15 and up, so this isn't one for the kiddies, that is for certain. So alright, let's go ahead and get this out of the packaging. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at Obi-Wan. Alright, so here is General Kenobi out of the packaging, and there's something really weird going on here. We'll get into that. Let's look at the overall physique of the figure. It looks good. That's no surprise here. S.H. Figuarts always does a great job in the proportions and the overall aesthetic of the figure being realistic. No exception here. The figure has a very good stature. It's got very nice coloring applied throughout from head to toe. And it seems to balance very well. That's usually the case with Figuarts. The plastic is very solid. Feels good in the hand. And as usually is the case, you get quite a few different interchangeable hands and accessories. We'll look at all that. First, let's talk about the head. All right, can you guys spot the problem that I am having here? It's a pretty big problem, and I'm sure you've seen it by now, but what is going on with his eyes? The right eye looks pretty good. The left eye, I don't know. It feels like it got misprinted or something, but it's really weird. It's really weird. I mean, usually, it doesn't look too bad right there, actually. But it seems like the printing maybe is like off a little bit. It's like kind of off to the left. Usually with S.H. Figuarts, this isn't a problem. You normally don't get QC issues. Maybe very minor paint issues, but not like you would see on a Hasbro or a mass-produced product. But something's definitely up with the eyes there. It's like it got misprinted. It just didn't get applied correctly. So I'll probably be contacting Ami and seeing what our options are for that, because this is a first. I've never had this happen with the Bandai S.H. Figuarts figures. So definitely something I should look into. But it's a nice head sculpt. I mean, if we if we cover that up, the right side of the face looks really good. It's got a good likeness. The overall sculpt looks great. The skin tone, the way that they textured the hair, and the beard, all of that looks a little bit nice. Yeah, it's a little bit shiny, but you know, it kind of distinguishes it a little bit more from the skin, which again, that skin tone is awesome. They really did a nice job. There's even some furrowing in his brow, a little bit of wrinkling you can see there. And the beard looks, and it's a little Clone Warsy, isn't it? Like there's a lot of texture going on there. In fact, I would say maybe they did a little bit too much with that beard. It does look a little bit like Obi-Wan from Clone Wars, which is interesting. It's also a little bit dark. I kind of feel like it should be a little bit lighter in color. Maybe maybe some white or some gray in there. But it's not too bad. Eye color looks great. Again, if you look at the right eye, that looks great. If you look at just the left eye, that looks weird. The rest of the body looks great. Neck looks good. Good skin tone. Good match to the face. Hands seem to match that pretty well. And beautiful sculpt work that S.H. Figuarts always accomplishes on these figures. Just looking at there on the robe, you can definitely see, or not robe, but his tunic is very nicely done. And it's really nicely painted too. It's not like just brown or beige. It's actually like there's some highlights, some like reddish sandy highlights going on in there to kind of make it more realistic, bring out some of that detail. The belt looks really nice. It's got some silver paint. It's got some brown paint, some little gold accents. Looks awesome. The lightsaber hilt is affixed on his belt out of the packaging, and that looks really nice. Really gorgeous paint details on here. And even the sculpting. Look at the little switch right there. Look at the details that they actually got on that. It's awesome. Of course, it pegs into his belt, and there's a little detail right there. I don't really know why they applied that detail there, because it's not part of the actual saber. Just plug that back in. And then the legs look good. Not as much detailing on the legs, which, is fine. They are sculpted nicely enough. Nice brown sandy color there. And then the boots are nicely done as well. They're actually like a pretty glossy reddish sort of color, and I think they look really nice. The soles are dark brown, and overall, really nice looking figure. But let's get right into that articulation. So we do have a ball joint here at the top of the head, par for the course, and then you also have a joint here at the neck. So it gets down quite a bit. It looks up. You can cock his head forward and back. We get side to side. Looking at those eyes again, from this angle, it doesn't look too bad. From right there, it looks pretty good, but then when you look at it front on, yeah, something's not right there. Here at the shoulders, they go out. You can rotate them. You have a bend at the elbow, way more than 90 degrees, but you do get that gap at the back, some gappage. All of the wrists, you have rotations. You can move them forward and back. They are on ball pins, and there goes our arm. What am I doing here? I think it's back in. Seems like it. You get a rotation here at the waist. Very nice movement. Goes side to side, back and forth. Here at the legs, they have the typical drop-down joint, so you can make Obi-Wan just a little bit taller if you needed to. Legs go out, but not a whole lot because they are restricted by his skirt, let's call it. They go forward. They can go forward all the way, but again, there is some restriction there. You can rotate the hips as well. And then at the knees, you do have your bends. Nice bend. And then at the ankles, the intent is with that ball joint, you go up and down, you go side to side, you can even pivot it. And then at the toes, you have a joint there as well. It's a pretty good joint. Overall, he's nicely articulated. It's very par for the course. I mean, if you've had one Star Wars Figuarts figure, it's essentially the same thing. What I am finding, though, is the QC is a little bit lacking, unfortunately. All right, so let's talk interchangeable hands. Out of the packaging, Obi-Wan comes with 2 fisted hands. He's also got 2 open hands. He's got 2 lightsaber gripping hands. He's got 2 more slightly relaxed lightsaber gripping hands. And then he has a left 2-finger pointy hand and a right, somewhat relaxed, sort of force maneuver looking hand as well. Of course, we get his lightsaber. This is the bladed lightsaber. And if you look here as I rotate the saber, there are a few artifacts that kind of look like they are inside the blade, like right there. And then here in the middle a little bit as well. So it's not perfectly clean. The hilt looks very nice though. Hilt looks great. Again, great detailing on it. And just overall, looks very nice. Just what is that detail there? I really don't get that. I know it's not a D-ring because this lightsaber didn't have that until A New Hope. So I don't know what that's supposed to be. In any case, it looks nice overall. And then the blade has a very nice look to it up here. It's tapered, looks very similar to any of the other Obi-Wan lightsaber blades. And it actually does come apart. This is how you get it into his hands. You slide it into his hands, and then you insert the other part to cap it, and you just rotate it until you got it in there all the way. And you can do that with both hands, of course, if you want to do a double-handed pose. And then we have an interchangeable head sculpt. Now, if you look at the interchangeable head, the eyes are painted very nicely on that one. So yeah, I just think it's a QC issue. So if I'm not able to get some sort of resolution or replacement or whatnot, I'll probably end up putting the interchangeable head on there because at least it doesn't have that issue going on with the eyes. And basically Obi-Wan has a different expression. I like this. It's not just a little bit different. It's actually quite a bit different. He looks kind of frustrated or angry. It's got sort of an anime look to it. And I think it might actually look a little more like Ewan McGregor. It just has a little bit more, I don't know, it looks a little better to me for some reason. So we're not dealing with interchangeable face plates here. We're basically just popping off the head, and we are swapping on the new head. This is way easier than dealing with the face plates like on Princess Leia, like on that first Luke, or the second Luke Skywalker from A New Hope. This works a lot better. Yeah, that alternate head actually looks really nice. I think this is one of those rare cases where I actually prefer the alternate head over the regular head. And that's not even counting the fact that there's some crazy eyes thing going on with the regular head. I just think it looks better overall. When you put it on there, this actually kind of looks like it's supposed to be his I have the high ground head. Alright, so here's our comparison of the 3 S.H. Figuarts Obi-Wan Kenobi action figures. On the left, we have the Phantom Menace Obi-Wan. In the center, we have the Attack of the Clones Obi-Wan. And on the right, we have the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan that we are reviewing today. As far as sheer realism and likeness goes, I think the Phantom Menace Obi-Wan still takes the cake. When you switch over to the Attack of the Clones, that facial likeness just has never really sat right with me. I think the Revenge of the Sith figure is an improvement over the Attack of the Clones figure as far as the faces go. But for sheer realism, I just feel like the Phantom Menace Obi-Wan is where it's at. And, you know, that's when we don't talk about the overly glossy gold hair, which is not very nice looking, but it looks really good. It looks really good. It just, I don't know. When you look at it next to the Attack of the Clones one, that one just seems like it falls short amongst the 3. It's actually one of my least favorite S.H. Figuarts figures. I just got it because I was buying most of the Attack of the Clones figures and I thought I needed to add it to the collection. But if you're kind of picking and choosing, yeah, you can kind of skip this one. And, you know, if it were coming down to one or the other between these guys, for realism, definitely the Phantom Menace Obi-Wan, but for perhaps shelf presence or just looking a little more interesting, I like the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan. And I know I'm not using the standard head sculpt on there, but that's because I refuse to put it back on this body. You can also see that the lightsaber blades are a bit different. Like the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan just has like a more pure blue sort of coloration to the lightsaber blade, whereas these other guys have, I think it's actually the same exact lightsaber, but you can see that the blade's a little bit darker maybe. It's a little more purpley looking. Here's Obi-Wan next to the Revenge of the Sith Anakin, which I still need to do a review for that figure, but for comparison's sake, you can see how they look next to each other. They look pretty good. I'm not as big a fan of this Anakin figure as I was the Attack of the Clones versions. It's kind of the opposite issue of the Obi-Wan figures, but it is cool to see them side by side. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. This is the Bandai Tamashii Nations S.H. Figuarts Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith. Overall, you guys, I like the figure. Gotta be honest, despite the QC issues, which are very disappointing, I like the figure overall. It's just too bad that it does have those issues. And of course, the main issue I'm referring to is the eye just not being printed on correctly. That really bothers me. When you pay $50 for a figure, that should be the least of your concerns. I'm generally okay with a little mishap here and there, but when it comes to the face and it comes to the eyes, that's where it needs to look perfect for me, and unfortunately there's quite a big issue there. Also, the right arm just coming disassembled and the ankle popping off. I mean, this is an S.H. Figuarts figure, so you can't technically break it. If the pieces come apart, you can just snap them back in place, but they shouldn't come apart quite this easily. So that seems to be a QC issue. I hope QC isn't going down as a whole on S.H. Figuarts figures or on Star Wars Figuarts figures, because that's one of my favorite toy lines to collect. And on the whole, I've been very happy with all of the S.H. Figuarts figures that I've purchased, not just for Star Wars, but some of the other lines as well. The head sculpts do look pretty nice. I think they went a little bit overboard with the beard. I especially like the interchangeable head that it comes with. I think it's got a great expression on it, and it really brings the figure to life. The interchangeable hands are great. Some of them are a little tricky to get in there, but they seem to work, and the lightsaber accessory is great. Overall, it's a nice figure. I'm happy to have it in the collection. The QC just isn't quite as perfect as it needs to be, but other than that, it looks good. If you're able to get a sample without any QC issues, then it's going to be a really enjoyable figure to have in the collection. Alright, my friends, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts about this figure down below. Does your Obi-Wan have these QC issues? Is it just mine? Let me know. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for the latest news and the latest updates. As always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Victoria's Cantina. Until next time, bye-bye.